We are live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Let's see if we're good here. No, that's not there yet. Hector Gomez, good morning. You were the first one in. There are 3 people in early, but you're the first I see. Good morning, Hector. As you can see, Dave Oehler is back from his long sabbatical. Steve DeRocco, the original Rock, founding member of the San Antonio Polar Bear Club. Steve DeRocco, it's December 1st, so I'm following you on the wild fitness and eating and drinking better thing. My God. I got to do something here. So that's why I blew it out of the pool yesterday because I knew it was the last day of November. And it was the day before I try to eat better and exercise more. Wow, 175.4. Where did you start at, Steve DeRocco? Steve DeRocco has been, and how many days are you at? 80-something, 90-something? Luisa Alanis, good morning. 211.2. I am a lot closer to 211.2 than I am to 175.4. Well done, Steve DeRocco. Good job, sir. Keep it going, man. Day 80. Day 80 for you. Day 1 for me. Very cool. Good for you, man. It gives me hope, gives me inspiration. We should be a minute or 2 out. Woo! Tracy Bogert. Yeah, was that a Phoenix Suns, Tracy? 17 in a row. And they beat the Warriors. So I do believe that now means the Suns have the best record in the NBA. Jerry Lauder, good morning. Amber, a.k.a. Foamfoot 420. See, the Facebook people don't see the comments from YouTube. I put Foamfoot 420, Amber, on the screen. And the YouTube people don't see. So more and more now I'm trying to get people's comments up on the screen. There's Jerry Lauder saying good morning. Good morning, Jerry. We had a good morning from Steve DeRocco. We had a good morning from Luisa Alanis. The first good morning was from Hector Gomez. Woo! Here we come. Wow, we're getting in a little later than usual today. It's weird. It's weird. Wes Perkins, welcome in. Dave Emilio Castanuela, Ralph Balderas, good morning.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is December. Are you kidding me? How is it possible it's December? Wednesday, December 1st. So much to talk about. College football rankings are out. The Phoenix Suns win again. That's 17 in a row. This time they just beat the team with the best record in the NBA, the Golden State Warriors. LeBron James out for an extended period of time. Do you know why? Tiger Woods, what's in his future? He kind of shed some light on it. RG3 with a book, Urban Meyer on where he will or will not go. So much to talk about. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. And in a few moments, you already see him on the live video feed, but in a few moments, we will welcome in our long departed and absent Soundscape stylist. Before we do that, Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, happy December. Where the heck did this year go?
I do not know, but I do not care, sir. Yesterday,
I don't know, and I don't care.
I got the tree up. My house is decorated. I got the lights out front. I'm ready to go. I got invited already to my first ugly sweater party of the holiday season. I'm ready to go. I'm happy it's here. I'm okay with it.
You know, you just said I don't know and I don't care. That's the answer to the question. What's the difference between ignorance and apathy? I don't know and I don't care. It's a great way to be. So did you say you got the Christmas tree up?
Yeah.
Wow.
Tree's up, decorated. Everything's out. I'm just ready to enjoy it now.
Now, let me ask you, do you have any, because I do, and I have for years, do you have any sports-related Christmas ornaments on your Christmas tree? You have got to have some kind of Texas Longhorn ornament, knowing you, if not several, right?
On my personal tree, no. Because in the past, I got a specific Longhorn graduation ornament. It's on my parents' tree, and then growing up, there's lots of sports. But yeah, I don't have any. If anyone wants to hook me up. See, I do have a crock pot and a salt shaker on there.
Okay. Yeah. See, I've got Cowboy stuff. I've got Cowboys Super Bowl 1993 ornament. I got a Tony Romo ornament. I got a T.O. in a Cowboy, little T.O. figurine ornament. I got Elvis. I would have thought your Christmas tree would be burnt orange and white, like a burnt orange tree with white lights, and it would play, the Eyes of Texas instead of Christmas carols. I just thought you would go just all in on Texas. It's a thought.
Yeah, my house is dachshunds everywhere. Just anytime you walk into a store and there's a dachshund on it, I probably already own it, and if I don't, it's coming home with me. And so my tree is mostly dachshund ornaments, but I have a pencil tree, just the way my house is laid out. I couldn't do a full size, so I'm a little limited in space.
Okay. All right.
So I don't, if I were to get a sports ornament, it would probably be one to sum up the whole thing. Not as specific as you said. You got a Tony Romo.
Yeah, I've over the years, whenever I've seen a Cowboys ornament, I've grabbed it. So yeah, I don't know, and maybe that Tony Romo ornament brings me bad luck. Maybe if I don't put it up this year, maybe I'll have a better
retire.
2020. Yeah, I need to retire the T.O. Terrell Owens Dallas Cowboys ornament. I need Dak and Zeke. I need a Micah Parsons ornament, but I don't think I will put up a Mike McCarthy ornament if there is one out there somewhere. Maybe a Dan Quinn, since he's our coach now tomorrow night for the Dallas Cowboys. Let us welcome in Shannon. And if you're on the live video feed, you see him now. If you're new to the show, we do have a live video feed. Lots of ways you can get there on Facebook, the Ticket 760 or AM 1300, the Zone pages. Same deal. Those radio stations' Twitter accounts, we're pushing it out there. YouTube, you can get to us through YouTube. I think it's been 2.5 weeks, Shannon. I forgot what he looked like, but I see him now. I can't believe it. I can't believe he's back. The one, the only, the lovely and talented Super Dave Oehler. What is up, sir?
Chris, how you doing? Shannon, how you guys doing? I haven't talked to you in, wow, yeah, it's been about 2.5 weeks.
I know.
We've all aged since then.
Gosh, thanks for reminding me. Thanks for bringing me down on
Yeah,
December 1st.
I do what I can. And you're
Full
talking
holiday spirit.
Yes.
and you're talking about putting up trees. And you've been, Chris, you've been following me on Facebook for a while
Yes,
now.
I do. And you're very, I recommend follow it. You put up some very entertaining and funny stuff on Facebook.
Thank you. And I got some of my Christmas shopping done over the last couple of days. So I'm about halfway done. And, about 3 years ago, I decided not to put up a tree. It was just me at home, so I wasn't going to do anything. And so everybody was sending me presents. I was just setting them over to the side, or in the living room. And somehow they all ended up underneath my autographed Bob Gibson jersey.
Ooh.
So I decided from then on, I don't put up a tree. Everything goes underneath the Bob Gibson jersey. And you follow me on Facebook. I put up pictures of it on Facebook every year.
Yes.
I don't know if you'd seen it. And then every year, instead of a star up there, I'll put like an autographed baseball or hockey puck or something else. Each one changes every year. So the last year was Lou Brock, since he had died. So I put my Lou Brock signed baseball on top of the
nice
Gibson jersey. This year I went the hockey way, and so I've got a signed puck from Wayne Gretzky. So that's sitting on top of the
my goodness.
This year, the Gibson jersey.
How did you acquire a signed puck from Wayne Gretzky? How did that come into your possession?
It's just things I acquire over the years.
That's a cool one.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a hockey puck signed by anybody, Wayne Gretzky is the guy I would say to have it signed by. That's pretty cool.
He's called the great one for a reason.
He is the great one. Now, Shannon, I mentioned the video feed, and I can't possibly, I'm really bad with pronunciations, but someone just jumped in here and says, greetings from Poland. We talk about how international the video feed is. We regularly have Taro from Japan, Ophalin from Singapore, Brad from Australia. Christopher was joining us from Kenya in Africa yesterday. Do you see that? I will try to pronounce the name, and forgive me in Poland if I get it wrong. First name looks pronounceable. Marcin. It looks Marcin, and I'm guessing Bekskowski. Hopefully I'm close. Welcome, Marcin Bekskowski. That's my best pronunciation from Poland. Shannon, care to correct me on the pronunciation there?
No,
Okay.
I'm not the one to go to on that, but that's so awesome. I was curious what time it is. It's 1:17 p.m. in Poland.
That's crazy.
That's pretty great.
And again, I say this a lot. When I first got in radio, we were not using the internet for streaming anything. The internet existed when I got into radio, but we weren't doing the things we're doing with the internet and live streaming the way we are now. So, I mean, coming from doing a show from San Antonio, when someone would call us from like New Braunfels and we get a call from Austin occasionally because it was WOAI, 50,000 watts. And then at night, I've told the story, somebody once, Steve Duraco's sister heard us scratchy in Iowa in the middle of that. It's like, oh my God, we're being heard in Iowa. And now it's, my God, it's around the world. And they see us now too, which is frightening for them. So welcome in from Poland, wherever you may be this morning. Thank you very much. So Shannon, where should we begin this morning? I guess with the college football playoff rankings, not a lot of surprise there. This is the next to the last reveal of the college football rankings, as we've got essentially conference championship games this weekend. And of course, the big one that I think we're going to find out what's going to happen in a big way in the SEC. Alabama takes on what a lot of people believe is unbeatable Georgia. So if Alabama gets its second loss, does that open the door for Oklahoma State or Notre Dame? If you haven't seen the rankings, here they are, released early last night. Number 1, Georgia, of course. Number 2, Michigan. They jump up to number 2 after their big convincing win over Ohio State. Number 3, Alabama, because it's the law. Number 4, Cincinnati. And then, so those are the 4 that are in at the moment, with one ranking to be released on Sunday. Number 5, Oklahoma State. Number 6, Notre Dame, a team without a coach. Imagine if they got in. Shannon, any surprise there? And do you think there will be a shakeup? Anybody on the outside who can get in after this weekend of conference championships?
I mean, as you mentioned, Georgia, Alabama will certainly be interesting, especially if Alabama ends up falling to Georgia. I'm also interested, Oklahoma State sitting at number 5, they take on number 9 Baylor in the Big 12 championship this weekend, whereas number 4 Cincinnati will be playing number 21 Houston for their conference championship. So I don't know if, we talk about quality wins and quality losses and what quality wins would need to look like for an Oklahoma State to jump over number 4 Cincinnati or number 4 Cincinnati to somehow fall behind. And it'd be interesting, if you throw in an Alabama loss, how much does the committee love Notre Dame and the drama that would unfold just by putting them in there, and the eyes that would be attracted that may not otherwise be interested in this because of the coaching. Lou Holtz was trending on Twitter more so than Brian Kelly following the announcement, because obviously with Lincoln Riley going to USC, Bob Stoops stepping in, interim head coach for the bowl game, he's already recruiting. And so people had the idea that Lou Holtz should help out Notre Dame in this situation. So I'm okay with the rankings as they are now, but you're right. This weekend, I think, does have some pretty big implications, specifically, I think, in that 4 and 5 slot. Because I think a loss for Cincinnati, they're done.
Yeah, they're done with a loss. But you bring up a great point. If we don't know how close Oklahoma State at 5 is in the eyes of the people who vote to Cincinnati, who's at number 4. So Baylor being much higher ranked as an opponent than Houston is for Cincinnati this weekend, you would think if Oklahoma State beats Baylor and beats them convincingly, and if Cincinnati has a hard time beating or barely beats Houston, I mean, even if Cincinnati didn't lose to Houston, but it was close, but Oklahoma State beat Baylor convincingly, even something like that could have Oklahoma State leapfrog Cincinnati. And speaking of Cincinnati, Shannon, there's talk, and I even heard Dan Patrick talking about this yesterday after our show. Luke Fickell, the head coach at Cincinnati, is rumored to be one of the top candidates for the Notre Dame job. Can you imagine if Notre Dame called Luke Fickell in the next few days? Here you've got Notre Dame, a team without a coach. If you're Luke Fickell and you're at Cincinnati, and that's an okay job, but I mean, let's face it, Notre Dame is a mega brand. You can rank Notre Dame, I would say, with Alabama, Texas, Georgia, USC, any big Ohio State. So if you're Luke Fickell, can you imagine if he got that phone call today or even this weekend saying, hey, we're Notre Dame, we want you, and just like Brian Kelly went to LSU, we want you now. We got to get recruiting now. Here's all this money, and you think of all the money Brian Kelly was given by LSU, all of the money Lincoln Riley was given by USC. We're Notre Dame, we're calling you Luke Fickell, here's all this money, but you got to take it right now. I mean, what do you do in a situation like that? I mean, most coaches, we know what they do. They say adios to their team and they make the leap. But you wonder if one of these days, and it might be a guy like a Luke Fickell who says, hey, I got to honor my team. I got to take him into the postseason. If you want me, talk to me after the season. Could open up a very interesting scenario involving him.
Yeah, that's a really fun hypothetical, especially considering where they are in the rankings, right? I mean, Cincinnati, not necessarily a shoe-in come the final selection on Sunday, right? And Notre Dame being at number 6, could Notre Dame find their way into that top 4? Or if Cincinnati bounces out, Notre Dame doesn't make it in, do they end up playing each other somewhere in a big New Year's 6 bowl game? And then what side would Fickell be on? And you're right. I mean, it used to be even when coaches said they were done or they were fired or they were going to leave, that they would stick it out for the bowl game. And now we're seeing them almost like players who are declaring for the draft of like, well, this bowl game isn't worth my time. It's not worth my energy. I'm going to go ahead and get started on whatever that next chapter is. And, we talked about it yesterday. Early signing period, I think, has really flipped it for coaches in this instance, because if they don't get these early signees, they don't get those early enrollees. They miss out on those practices. So there's a ton of implications. And so I guess if I was in his situation and Notre Dame called today, I would say yes, but I would probably also fight for the chance to at least coach Cincinnati through the playoffs.
Yeah.
Should they get there, and say, if they don't get the playoffs, I'll that would be my caveat. If it's just a bowl game and not a playoff bowl game, I will come on down.
Yes.
But that's rough. That's a good one to think about, Chris.
Well, and that's what happens when these big blue bloods lose their coaches. When Oklahoma loses its coach and they're shocked. When Notre Dame loses their coach and they're shocked. But they do. They carry a lot of weight. And when that one of those university calls and you're a head football coach, you take that call and you got to think about, do I want to change my life here and my family's life? And listening to Lincoln Riley again yesterday on the Colin Cowherd show, the first reason he cites for taking that USC job is family. And you look at the huge amount of money that he was offered, and it's like, my God, his daughters are set for life. He's set for life just on the money alone. All right, we got a lot to cover. Coming up, the high five play of the day. We got to talk about the NBA and the Phoenix Suns now, winners of 17 in a row. They knock off the Golden State Warriors last night, 104-96. Speaking of the NBA, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening, going to join us just after 8 o'clock. LeBron James making news, Tiger Woods, RG3, Urban Meyer, a gazillion big sports stories. We will cover them all. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Oehler is back as Soundscape Stylist. Your phone calls along the way if you want to jump in here, 800-707-9760. With you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Don Holding, a.k.a. Haas Holding, is in here. What does Don say? UTSA. Whoa, that's loud. That is so loud. UTSA will have to establish winning at this level, and then they can get the respect with the polls. Yeah, Don is reacting to Louisa, who said UTSA was dropped from the top 25. That didn't surprise me when they lost to 5-6 North Texas, because it took so long in that season when they were undefeated, when they were 7-0, 8-0, 9-0, and still not getting in. Till they were like 10-0 and 11-0. So that didn't shock me. I don't like it, and I don't think it's right, but it didn't shock me. John Williams, I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking about his food on the food truck? John Williams, how about Walter Pasacreta's daily special of the day? I don't follow you. But thank you. Good morning, Beth Settle. Welcome in. Where's my coffee? God, I need coffee. Here it is. Woo! Yeah, I do see, and we love Walter Pasacreta. Those of you who know him. Longtime San Antonio broadcaster from New York originally. You get that as soon as you hear his accent. Very good guy, friend. Has a food truck, Wally's Deli food truck in San Antonio. And recently this year, I know he's had some mechanical issues with the food truck, but I've seen it on social media. It's back up and running. We have Wally on the show now and then. I got to get him back on again and get him on more often because he's a tremendous radio guest. Sam Tobias says coffee run 40,100 for me. See, sometimes at this hour, and I'm pouring my coffee, sometimes at this hour, the coffee is still hot in my mega Stratotanker container. So let's see if it's hot. Yes, it is. Woo! All right. So now I don't have to microwave it to heat it back up. That's a good thing. Foamfoot 420 says, I'm going to Cowboys Dance Hall again tonight. Cowboys Dance Hall. So if you're looking for Foamfoot 420 tonight, go to Cowboys Dance Hall. Let's see, Don Holding, a.k.a. Haas. There you exactly. And that's why whenever I have, Don is saying he's got to find Wally's truck to show support. He's a very good and entertaining guy. I agree with all the above. Yeah, that's why whenever I have Wally on the show, I ask him where he's going to be parking his food truck. Because I mean, and that is if you can, especially a local business, especially a guy like Wally, who, if you know his story, has put his heart and soul into that food truck. And you know, and sometimes, you know, when it's gone bad, you know, when the truck is broken down, you know, and then when his truck breaks down, he can't earn that income. So December 1st, I can't believe it. Dave Oehler, who you see on the screen, is kind enough to share the show prep that he does with WOAI. He works with them in the morning before the show even began. I mean, he's here crazy early because they begin at 5 a.m. So in case you didn't know, today is World AIDS Awareness Day. I think there's 4 of them today, maybe more. Today is Rosa Parks Day. So does that mean I'm going to have to read this? Is this the day that they asked her to get off the bus or go sit in the back of the bus, more specifically? And Rosa Parks said, I don't think so. See, why is today Rosa Parks Day? In some areas, it celebrated her birthday, but her birthday's on February 4th. December 1st. Yeah, this is the day. In 1955, Rosa Parks boarded a bus in Montgomery, Alabama. She took her seat in the quote-unquote colored section, but as she rode, the bus began to fill, so she changed seats, and she was asked to give up her seat for a white person. She refused. She was arrested. She was later found guilty of violating the city ordinance and was fined $10 plus a court fee. Now, $10 in 1955 is probably like $70 or $100 today. So right on, Rosa Parks. Today is Eat a Red Apple Day. Eat a Red Apple Day. There's that. Today is National Pie Day. P-I-E, not P-I. And today is National Fritters Day. Oh, no, tomorrow. Okay, I can't jump the gun. I don't want to celebrate National Fritters Day today when it's tomorrow. Okay, so there's that. John Williams wants to know, what is my favorite movie soundtrack? Field of Dreams, which is my favorite movie. It is tremendous music. I think John Horner was the composer, but removing that one, the Rocky soundtrack was great. Any Star Wars soundtrack, I love those. Anything by John Williams. John Williams did Star Wars. He did a lot of the Spielberg soundtracks. Vangelis, who did Chariots of Fire, high on my list. Vangelis also did the original Blade Runner soundtrack, which is high on my list. Jaws, there you go, John. Steven Spielberg, and I do believe John Williams. I mean, that Jaws is brilliant because the sound that they created, that dun 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 dun, which was the sound of the shark, but musically, I remember as a kid having seen Jaws, and then I go out and swim at Port Aransas, and I'm out there in the water going out to like the first sandbar, so I'm out there pretty deep. And in my head, I started hearing the Jaws theme just in my head, the jingle, dun 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 dun. I scared that. It's like, oh my God, there could be sharks in this. I swam back to shore and I got the heck out. So, yeah, Jaws is very, very special as a soundtrack. All right, we are close to being back. Now I saw Marcin from Poland has a Spurs profile pic. So yesterday we had Christopher in here from Kenya, and today Marcin from Poland. It just blows my mind. Here we come.
It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Sweeney. Join in by dialing 1-800-707-9760.
Dave Oehler, your Soundscape stylist, appropriately playing the final countdown, which for the college football playoff, this is Wednesday. We're going to know on Sunday. Those conference championship games, for the most part, will be played on Saturday. We'll get a lot of resolution as to what's going to happen. And we're just a day away from Dallas Cowboys football. And I got a bad feeling about this against the New Orleans Saints. Shannon, before we hit the high five play of the day, I just, even before all of the COVID, just rocked the Dallas Cowboys. At least 8 at last count players and coaches affected and did COVID protocols, plus the suspension. But before all of that, I just, having lost 3 out of 4, having to turn around from Thanksgiving Thursday to play the Thursday night game. And I know you can't whine about that. You get 7 days, but Cowboys used to benefit from the short, when you do Thanksgiving, you play on Sunday, then you play on Thanksgiving. That's a short turnaround. So you get a little rewarded for it to get a 10-day turnaround. No, not for the Cowboys. And I heard somebody, I've said this all along, Shannon, and I heard somebody say it yesterday. I think it was, because I was listening after our show, it was either Dan Patrick or Colin Cowherd nationally who said Sean Payton will never admit it, but I think he enjoys beating Jerry Jones and has a little extra oomph when he takes on Jerry Jones, because Jerry Jones, his time in Dallas, Jerry passed on the opportunity to make Sean Payton a head coach. But my question for you, Shannon, do you, like I, have a bad feeling about tomorrow night's Dallas Cowboys game?
You know what, Chris? I'm going to go off brand a little bit and say that I don't. Maybe that's the Dallas Cowboy fan in me that I no matter what, I have to believe that we are good enough to win it all. And I think back of Tony Romo's time running the Cowboys and doing what he did, in that November was always the tragic month, right? And going, losing 3 out of the last 4 in the month of November. I know Tony's not quarterback anymore, but that's what it felt like to me. New month, get some players back, and DeMarcus Lawrence. We still don't know who's going to be starting for the Saints at QB.
Yeah.
Hopefully Dak and Zeke will be in prime form. We're still favored by 4.5 at this point for tomorrow night's game. So I'm going to say that I am feeling glass half full.
Okay, good. No, and I aspire to be glass half full, and I try to be glass half full whenever I can, but I got a bad feeling. I'm just saying. All right, and I hope I'm wrong.
You can
and
be
hopefully,
salty today.
Yeah, well, and hopefully Cowboys win, and I will learn it's like, hey, man, trust in Dak, trust in the Cowboys. Yeah. But, hey, man, since 1996, the Cowboys have not given us a lot of reason to trust them throughout a season to go deep. But, okay, there's that. Let's do the high five play of the day. We do this every morning at this time because we should, because there are people out there, especially in the sports world, deserving of a high five. High five play of the day is appropriately sponsored by High Five, 2 locations in the Austin area. Someday there will be one in the San Antonio area. I've offered to trade a Las Palapas for a High Five for Austin just to bring one down here. When you go to High Five, it's everything you want. Big screen TVs everywhere, so you can watch whatever sports you love. Great drinks, great food specials, drink specials, all kinds of games. They've got Shannon, you know the games better than I do. What kind of games do they have at High Five?
Bowling, plenty of arcade games. I mean, it is basketball season, so if you want to work on your jumper, there's plenty of options there. My personal favorite over at the Lakeway location, they have basketball tic-tac-toe. So you shoot the baskets to make a tic-tac-toe. And also, nice. The one thing I haven't done, Anderson Lane location does have a really nice dartboard and like a cool little lounge section. I don't know that I or anyone else trusts me with darts in their hands, so maybe that's part of my problem. But it is Wednesday night, so a great night to get over there, as I do have all night happy hour, and they have great food, Chris. And since we're on food, and I can't mention this enough, whenever it happens, I feel like I have to bring it up. So it is our high five today of coaches in the Central Texas area, once again, getting involved in student life and caring more than just about the wins and losses, understanding their greatest supporters are those students that are on campus, and understanding that they, just like the athletes, are going through their own things, and they're students. They're not making money. They're going to school. And what do students love? What do people like me who work in radio, who still consider themselves living that student lifestyle, love? Free, Chris. And once again, it is game week for UTSA. So once again, Jeff Traylor and company will be passing out food. They announced that it'll be today from 11 to 12 at the Sombria, which I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, is kind of outside the food court area where there's the water fountain and lots of chairs going on. It's going to be pizza this time. I believe last time it was pumpkin pie. Today it's pizza from 11 to noon. Make sure you go grab some and say what's up to Coach Jeff Traylor. But I also wanted to combine this with what Chris Beard did yesterday. It was very impromptu. It was very quick. It's genius what it is. And again, something just for the students. Chris Beard announced on his Twitter yesterday afternoon that he would be hosting and moderating an evening with Brandon Hunt, aka Coach Beard, from the Ted Lasso series, a character that people have come to know and love. He was in the house. He was, as I said, did a little Q&A. Students, it was a student-only event. You could bring your ID to get in for free. Lots of great pictures from that evening. Brendan Hunt leaving this impression. He said, "Be curious, not judgmental," which I think is some fantastic, very sound advice. Chris, I love it so much that both UTSA and Texas are right now blessed with these kinds of coaches who get it. They get it. right? Because as much as the media fanfare and everything that can come with having that position and seeing success, they are still taking the time to do things for the students and the student body, and really cool things that I don't think a lot of other coaches around the country are doing. They may think they're doing it, but not on this level. So high five to Coach Chris Beard of the Texas men's basketball team, and of course Jeff Traylor of UTSA football.
Agree, and I've said it and I believe it. Both these guys, Jeff Traylor, UTSA head football coach, friend of the show. He joins us every Monday. Chris Beard, Longhorn alum, and now in his first year after his time at Texas Tech, his first year now as head coach of the Texas Longhorns. They make all the right moves. I mean, how brilliant of Chris Beard to bring in Coach Beard of the Ted Lasso show, which is insanely popular, which I'm sure is also insanely popular among students at UT, and to have a panel with him and student only, and students get in free, and to offer them a huge perk. Just absolutely cool, doing the right thing. These coaches could, you get to the level of the head coach, certainly in a football program and basketball, as big as football is at Texas Longhorn basketball, a huge deal as well. You could finally get there and go, and on a multiple levels. One, it could be a little bit of arrogance. Is like, hey man, I'm the coach now. I'm very special. I got a lot of stuff on my plate. Or you could just from a sense of commitment saying, man, I need to spend my every waking hour making our basketball team or our football team the best we can possibly be. No, it's a multifaceted position, and you are the face of either the football team in Jeff Traylor's case or the basketball team in Chris Beard's case on that campus. The students look up to you. The students are inspired by you. So not only are you doing good things for the students, but what goes around comes around. It's the law of circulation. Those students are seeing that you care, so they're going to buy in and care more about your team. So it's a win-win. It's a huge thing. I like it a lot.
Yeah, and I'm sure, particularly like with the Irwin Center, I did go to a couple games as a student, but where I lived and where a lot of students live over on West Campus, that it's a hike to get to the Irwin Center, and there is a bus operation, but it's not always the easiest. It's not always the easiest thing to figure out timing wise either. So it is kind of seen as a hassle along if you were to drive the parking situation over at Irwin Center. It's hard to want to go to basketball games when you have to deal with traffic and things of that nature. So I think just this little extra effort by Chris Beard, and same thing for Coach Traylor, right? Alamo Dome, not on campus, right? Students have to find a way to get to those games. And so I think these little efforts will end up going a long way, especially, when their seasons either continue or pick back up again next year.
Now, you mentioned the trek and the difficulty it is for Texas Longhorn students to get to the Irwin Center. The new arena that is being built, is that going to be an easier trek for students? Is it going to be more accessible for students ultimately? It's
kind of more central. It's still on the backside of campus, so it's a little bit more central, I guess, than Irwin. But I'm hoping they've got the parking situation, and also just like there's constant construction on campus. I mean, constant in the last 5-6 years in front of the Irwin Center and around there, with them building the hospital and getting rid of the tennis courts and everything. It's just made it that much more difficult. So I would hope that once the new stadium is built, that area is construction free, because that has played a huge role in it as well.
Now back to UTSA for a second. And, we talked to UTSA head football coach Jeff Traylor on Monday. He joined us early in the show because it's a short week, because their game is on Friday, the Conference USA Championship game at the Alamo Dome. And Shannon, I'm going to be very interested to find out, because when UTSA was undefeated, it's so weird how this works out and how perception becomes people's reality. Obviously this city, San Antonio, and the surrounding area, all the way even up to Austin and around, there was a growing fever, and I think it reached a fever pitch for UTSA when they were undefeated. They go and they lose to North Texas last week. So now they're 11-1, and now they play in the Conference USA Championship game early Friday evening against Western Kentucky at the Alamo Dome. I'm going to be interested to see if the Alamo Dome is still packed. You know, we've talked about April Ansira and so many people, the corporate community coming together to get tickets for UTSA students, because tickets are not a guarantee, or not only not guaranteed, but not provided for the students. Students have to pay for them. They're expensive. Students typically don't have a lot of discretionary income. So a lot of people, led by April Ansira, came together to make tickets available for students. I just hope, Shannon, that people realize it's so weird. If UTSA would have lost the 5th game of the year and then not lost again and finished at 11-1 and were to host the Conference USA Championship game in their house at the Alamo Dome, I think the fever for that game would be higher than start off 11-0, lose to North Texas, and now, you know, come to this game at 11-1. It's weird. I hope I'm not trusting yet, but I hope to be proven wrong, that some people are going to lose a little bit of their excitement for that game and maybe not go because they're not 12-0. I mean, I'm hoping UTSA students, fans, alums, but beyond that group, I'm hoping fans in the South and Central Texas area go and support UTSA Friday, 6 o'clock kickoff at the Alamo Dome, because it is the biggest game in their program history, and they can still do great things this year and moving forward.
Yeah, short-term memory probably means they don't remember all of those, you know, when they were 11-0. They just remember the recent loss, which ultimately also knocked them out of the college football playoff. But I think that's more incentive to go and cheer on this team, because there are other games to be played this weekend. And should they win, and should they win convincingly, they could end up back in that college football playoff. I mean, they're still playing for a bowl game here. That hasn't been selected yet. Last I heard, it looked like they may be heading to New Orleans, which would be, if you're a UTSA fan, a fun place to go play a bowl game, especially during the holiday season. I was lucky enough to go to the Sugar Bowl when Texas was there. I can't remember a more fun work trip. It was fantastic. So lots of, and it's a Friday night. How awesome is that? It's a rarity to play on a Friday night. It's a rarity to play on a Friday night in a championship game that matters in that way. Why not kick off your weekend with Coach Traylor and the Roadrunners and hopefully with a victory as they then wait for their bowl selection?
You mentioned a possible UTSA bowl game in New Orleans. I think that would be the ideal location, because for students and fans, it's a long drive, but it's drivable. You know, it's if you start early in the day, get up, get breakfast, hop in the car. New Orleans is drivable. And again, what a great town New Orleans is. I mean, if you're going to go and celebrate your team and celebrate the bowl and party, nothing like New Orleans. So it'll be very, very, and what's so cool, Shannon, we're going to start getting the answers to these questions on Sunday. You know, we're going to know where everybody wound up. The bowl invitations are going to start dropping. And, you know, by the time you and I convene on Monday of next week, we're going to know so much about the college football playoff itself and about a lot of bowl games, including where UTSA is going to go. We got a lot to talk about this morning. Remember, just after 8 o'clock, a little over an hour from now, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. Always fun, informative, entertaining. Love talking with Bill. We have got to get into the latest on LeBron James. He's big in the news. Tiger Woods, RG3, Urban Meyer. Phoenix Suns win 17 in a row. Lots to cover. She's the salty one. Dave Oehler making the show go till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Jason Paniagua pointing out 9 hours to New Orleans from San Antonio. Yep, so that's drivable. That's a long drive, obviously. That's probably, you know, near the outer limit of a comfortable day trip. So Louisa, there is, I don't know that the city, and I imagine knowing Mayor Ron Nierenberg, I imagine he's behind that, but I've seen a lot of light the city orange and blue social media and official logos for that. So there is a move to do that. And I don't know for sure it's a city initiative, but I'm just knowing Ron Nierenberg, he's so all in on all things San Antonio, and he's very sports conscious. That to me sounds like something that he and the city would promote in a big way. Yeah, Sam Tobias. Hopefully, San Antonio fans get it. I mean, obviously, it would have been infinitely cooler if they were unbeaten, but they're not. And no Tom Landry Cowboys team and no Jimmy Johnson Cowboys team ever went undefeated. It's a rare event. So, all right, I'm going to heat my coffee, and I will be back in just a few. Talk amongst yourselves. Welcome, Marcin from Poland. That's crazy. Love having Poland in the house. Thank you, Mike Taylor. And the Mike Taylor dancers. Marcus Valdespino is in here. Marcus says Tony Romo has one of the best November records in NFL history. It's December where the team struggled. Yeah, sadly, Marcus. Man, that Romo era was tough and so weird because he would sometimes, and he would most of the time, be so good. And then key games, key moments. So many times there were those games, like final game of the season against an NFC East opponent where the winner of that game would go on to win the whole thing. And they would lose those games. Okay, I've got to look at, I've got to, probably at 7:30, I've got to record a commercial 3 times, 3 separate renditions of it. So I've got to look at the copy here a little bit. Wes Perkins says, always drove me crazy that a quarterback like Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl, but Romo didn't. Yeah. I was there for the Trent Dilfer Super Bowl. Ravens Giants in Tampa. I went to 2 Super Bowls. We went 2000. It was after 9/11, so it was January of 2002, which was in New Orleans. Tom Brady's first Super Bowl win against the Rams. Rams were favored in that game. That was the year Brady inherited the starting job at New England. And so it was the year before that was the first one I went to at Tampa, which was Ravens versus Giants. And that was Trent Dilfer winning it. Yeah, it truly was, as Marcus says, that defense led by Ray Lewis. And that Giants team that it took on was just a really crappy Giants team. God, I'm trying to remember who was that Giants quarterback. Ravens Giants Super Bowl 35. Ray Lewis was the MVP. Tiki Barber played for the Giants. Kerry Collins. The Giants quarterback was Kerry. So, yeah, it was who was going to win that Super Bowl? Either Kerry Collins or Trent Dilfer, and the Ravens won it 34-7. All right. We are getting ready to come back. Yeah, Wes, that was a tremendous Super Bowl down to the last second. Arguably the most exciting finish. Here we go. 7 o'clock hour.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
Sonny Jurgensen and Billy Kilmer. John Williams, Billy Kilmer, who could not throw a spiral, but got the job done a lot.
Now, Chris Duel.
Welcome into the 7 o'clock hour on this first day of December 2021. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney, and back from his long absence, Soundscape stylist Dave Oehler. We got a lot of show coming at you this morning between now and 9 o'clock. We have been talking about the college football playoff rankings, which were released early yesterday evening. Top four: Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, Cincinnati. On the outside looking in, number 5, Oklahoma State. Number 6, Notre Dame. We will talk LeBron James, Tiger Woods, RG3, Urban Meyer, and more coming up in this hour. Shannon's Salty Shakedown, always entertaining, enlightening, thought-provoking. We recommend both hands on the steering wheel and breathe deeply throughout the Salty Shakedown. We don't want to cause any accidents out there on the road. A little bit later as well. Sports birthdays, sports history, and we love Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. He joins us every Wednesday, less than an hour from now, just after 8 o'clock. Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. And Shannon, seems like everybody writes a book. If we've heard of you, you write a book. I don't know if everybody reads those books. I don't know if those books sell in big numbers. And I don't know if we needed a book from Robert Griffin III, RG3. I don't know who's going to buy it. Baylor alums, maybe.
There'll be a class on the book.
Yeah, there you go. So what do you know about the RG3 book, Robert Griffin III, and why is he writing it, and what might he reveal in this book?
So as we know, RG3, Heisman winner from Baylor, goes to the NFL, lands in Washington. At that time, the Redskins had an amazing rookie season, and played lights out, gets injured, and he's just never the same. Bounced around the league a little bit. Is currently an analyst for college football and has done pretty well from what I've heard of some of the games that he has called. People tend to like him in that new role, but even so, when he got that job, he said he would still be willing to go back to the NFL should someone have him. Obviously, this year, a lot of turmoil in the NFL with the John Gruden emails, with some, I believe, Bruce Allen of Washington, who did have some time that overlapped with RG3. Also, Dan Snyder, his name being thrown around in the news as it usually is, and never for really great things. So RG3 announced yesterday, and we've got the official announcement for you. We'll listen to it in a second, of him releasing his book that he's titling Surviving Washington, which is supposed to be this explosive tell-all, all of the behind the scenes. And you would think he would have some insight, given that he was the quarterback of that franchise. He was kind of Dan Snyder's poster boy for a time period, and that maybe he will bring something new to the table, and whether or not that's incriminating remains to be seen. But again, we'll let RG3 explain it to you here. Oh, sorry, it's in the email, Dave. We'll get it in a little bit.
Oh, okay.
But RG3, I don't know if he has always been planning a book. I'm a little suspicious about whether or not this was planned ahead of time. Like if he's been writing it for years, right? Because books don't just appear. But at the same time, with everything that's been going on with Washington and people wanting Dan Snyder to be gone, this feels like a good moment for this type of book to be released by, oh, by the way, former quarterback and superstar for that team, RG3.
I was listening before we come on the air, the national show ahead of us, two pros and a cup of Joe, and one of the two pros on the three guys who were on that show is Brady Quinn, who, gosh, I'm seeing that guy everywhere on college football, on the panel shows. Brady Quinn is showing up all over my television on college football game days. But he made a point. He was talking about this book and the fact that, part of what RG3 is expected to talk about in the book is, how he got a bad break by going to a bad franchise, Washington, what we now call the Washington football team. And obviously, as you mentioned, Shannon, Daniel Snyder, not the best guy in the world by many reports. But Brady Quinn, who also, I think Brady Quinn wound up, among other teams, at Cleveland, the Cleveland Browns, as you mentioned, where quarterbacks go to die. And Brady Quinn made a great point. Anybody who comes out of college and complains about the team that drafted them, oh, I had to go to Cleveland, or oh, I had to go to Washington, or wherever. He made the point, you've got nothing. You get to play football for a living. You get to play in the National Football League. Now, unfortunately, not everybody gets drafted by the New England Patriots like Mac Jones did. And Mac Jones is having a stellar season for the New England Patriots and seems to be leading them to the playoffs. And we'll find out their big game against the Buffalo Bills this coming weekend. It's even possible now for the New England Patriots to win the AFC East with a rookie quarterback in Mac Jones. But it was a great point, I thought, Shannon, from a quarterback who had been there in Brady Quinn, who had been to bad franchises that he never expected to, either go to the playoffs or win championships. So many kids have a dream when they're a child of playing professional sports. And when you get there, you may not wind up on a Super Bowl championship team, but just to be there and have that opportunity is a blessing. And you should be thankful, and you should thank your lucky stars that you got that opportunity. And your job when you get there is to somehow make the best of that opportunity. So we talk a lot about, and we talked about the Cowboys earlier, Shannon, and you viewed tomorrow night's game as glass half full, which I respect and appreciate. And I'm feeling a little glass half empty. I'll be interested to see how throughout much of that book, Robert Griffin III is, either glass half full or glass half empty in that one.
Yeah, and like I said, people come out with these kind of books all the time, right? And that's always the kicker is it's going to be explosive. It's going to be never before heard stories. It's going to be my take. It's going to be my word. And again, did he write this? Did somebody else write this? Are these ideas being put into his head? How much of this is going to be stuff that we already know that he just maybe gives his take on? And then I don't know much about the law and evidence and what qualifies as evidence and such. But if there was to be something that he shared in this book that would be the final nail in the coffin for Dan Snyder, wouldn't he be in a bad position too? Like he can only say so much, right? Because if he knew of some of these things, specifically like the sexual exploitation of like some of the cheerleaders for the team, I mean, then he's in a bad spot, I would think too. So I don't know how much we're gonna get from this. Again, for me personally, I think it's a lot of timing, right? We're now in the holiday season. Everyone's looking for gifts. RG3 is still pretty popular, obviously, with Baylor alum and Washington fans. And oh my gosh, all this other stuff is happening. This is the perfect storm to release a book of this nature for RG3, especially as he is back in the media landscape doing his college analyst role. And again, college season happens to be nearing its end as well. So again, he's looking to kind of remain relevant. I'm not saying the book isn't going to have details that maybe are, worthy of a read, but it's a little suspicious, the timing of it all.
And I do believe we have the audio that you mentioned, Shannon.
Thanks,
Dave
Dave.
got it. So let's listen to RG3 himself describe his new book.
What's up, guys? I'm so excited to announce I wrote a book coming out August 2022, titled Surviving Washington. Now, every experience that I've ever had has made me a better husband, a better father, and a better player. And I want you to take this journey with me as I walk you through one of the most dysfunctional franchises in all of sports. I'm going to tell you the truth about what happened in that playoff game in 2012 against Seattle. I'm going to detail the medical mismanagement that I received during my time in Washington. I'm going to open your eyes to the sexual harassment that permeated the walls of that building and give you a deep dive into a power struggle between one of the most powerful coaches in all of sports and an owner that many of you want gone. They say the truth will set you free. So here it is, unfiltered. Pre-order now.
Well, he sold that well. I was kind of poo-pooing that book. Now that I heard RG3 sell it, and just now I'm intrigued, Shannon.
You gonna pre-order? You can pre-order it now.
Pre-order, but and here's the deal on Dan Snyder. I think he's a bad guy. Yes, I think he's a dirt bag. But this is why I find it fascinating, because this is what happens with NFL owners. I don't think any NFL owner ever wants to open the door to themselves, perhaps someday losing their franchise. That's why I believe they close ranks. When Robert Kraft had this bad PR, and not only was it a PR nightmare, he did something very, very bad at that massage parlor in Florida. The video, because he's rich, because he can afford the attorneys, God knows if the judge was bribed, they quashed a video that existed reportedly of Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, doing some lewd things with a quote unquote massage person. As it turned out, it is suspected that they were illegal immigrant Chinese young girls who were employed there, who may very well have been forcibly sexually trafficked from China to work against their will in the United States, which is absolutely horrible. But that goes away. Robert Kraft has a lot of money. They fight it in court in Florida. They lawyer up. The videotape gets quashed, and the whole thing goes away. That's why I think no matter what we learn about Dan Snyder, and I'll be interested, Shannon, if RG3 has more dirt on Dan Snyder, but I think NFL owners, as despicable as the revelations may be about Dan Snyder, they are not going to force him out, because they know someday things may go wrong for them. And if you set a precedent of here's a line you cannot cross, and when you cross it, you have to give up your franchise. No NFL billionaires are not used to having things go against them and not getting their way. That's why I don't think we'll ever see Dan Snyder go away. He did make the concession, as we know this year, his wife is running the day-to-day operations. So it's a semi-concession. I imagine maybe ownership and the commissioner came after him and said, look, you got to do something here. You look horrible. But it's going to be interesting to see if RG3 has anything further.
Yeah, I've got a question for you now that's popped into my mind, because, RG3 took this college analyst position with ESPN earlier in the year and made it very clear, if I were to be called by an NFL team to come play, I want to go do that. I want to be able to leave the college analyst position and go do that, because I still feel like I have it in me to play. We've seen him post plenty of videos in his home gym of him working out. After you've heard him talk about his book and what it details and, what could potentially come out of it, do you think that is also him closing the chapter on returning to the NFL? Because I don't know of a team, everybody's got their skeletons, right? And no one necessarily, unless by their own choosing, wants to show them. And, the quarterback, again, they have a lot of access and they know a lot of things, whether they are supposed to or not. Do you then see him as a liability coming into a franchise in the future? Because, well, look what he did to Washington.
That's a great point. When he talks about medical mismanagement, therefore that's, you're looking at malpractice and things that could open up franchises to lawsuits. So yeah, I mean, if someone, almost in any business, if someone is perceived as a snitch, I mean, do you want to do business with them? And so other NFL teams, here he is writing a tell-all book, and I'm going to tell you everything wrong with this franchise, and I'm going to tell you everything wrong with this owner. I agree with you. He pretty much has ended his chances of being employed by any NFL team, because if you set the precedent that if you don't like the way things go, even if you're right, and maybe, you know, I would imagine he's right in the things he's going to talk about here. But yeah, other NFL franchises don't want to open the door to that. And I think in a similar way, when you mess with billionaires' money, and this is why I think Colin Kaepernick is blacklisted in the NFL, because doing what he did caused, whether you like it or not, whether you agree with Colin Kaepernick or not, and I personally agree that Colin Kaepernick does have the right to protest, and he did so respectfully, ultimately, by taking a knee, whether you like it or not. But a fueled, I think, in large part by tweets from the then President Donald Trump, a lot of NFL fans were fired up to not want to come to NFL football games when other players started taking a knee. So Colin Kaepernick affected the bottom line, the money of these billionaire owners. And I think that's the main reason why Colin Kaepernick is blacklisted from the NFL. And you bring this up about RG3. Hey, I'll write a tell-all book. I'll criticize the franchise, and I'll criticize the owner, and I'll talk about the medical malpractice they did on me. Similar, yeah. You're messing with the bottom line of billionaires, and they don't like that. So I don't think we'll ever see him again in the National Football League.
And you could, like I said, you could pre-order the book now. But interesting, the release date for this, August 9th of 2022. We're going to have all of this time for Washington to try and, you know, do whatever they can to maybe take things out of that book, negotiate, maybe get their story out before he does. Again, we just talked about, you know, would other teams still be willing? I mean, he just 15 hours ago, he posted a training video. Would other teams still be willing to take a look at him to come onto their staff and you know, be a part of that roster? Because the book, again, not going to be released until is that right? Crazy. When the preseason begins? I mean, he's the timing again is impeccable here. I mean, happy new football season. Here's my book, and have fun with that, Snyder and family.
I still don't understand why, you know, he wants to wait that long, especially with Christmas here, and especially with, you know, the heat that he can generate for the book as someone who can sell it well. And clearly,
those billionaires and their dollars.
Yeah,
they are willing to pay.
True. Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. Yes, in the same way that Robert Kraft got the video, the incriminating video from the massage parlor quashed and it went away. So yeah, maybe Robert Griffin III has something so incendiary in that book that Daniel Snyder and maybe even the rest of the NFL might be willing. Because Colin Kaepernick, people forget, did get a settlement from the NFL. Ultimately, the NFL did pay Colin Kaepernick a settlement. It's like, all right, whatever it was, I don't have the number in front of me, but let's throw out a number that, you know, $500,000. I don't know that it was that. Maybe it was $100,000. It was whatever it was that a court said, yeah, you got to pay this guy. So it's like, yeah, all right, we'll pay him, but you'll never play it down in this league again. Same thing for RG3. You know, one of the terms for this is catch and kill. It's like you buy the rights to something, you buy the rights to a book, and then you just sit on that book and you never release it, and now you own the rights. So it's like, yeah, we'll give you money for this, and you'll probably, if we give you money for it, you'll probably make more money than you would have as an author, because there's such a glut of books out there. There's so many books being sold nonstop, and RG3 isn't exactly Tom Brady or Oprah or a renowned author. So yeah, Tom Brady might, RG3 might take a settlement for this book for someone to buy it, and then you'll see that book disappear. And then all of a sudden, if he signs a non-disclosure agreement, RG3 is no longer talking about this anymore.
I wonder what that announcement would look like. Hey guys, never mind about the book. Something
Yeah,
came
you know,
up.
I've, upon further consideration, I think it's time for me to just move on with my broadcasting career. I just, it's just,
don't
I
wanna be
thought
a
about it. I
distraction.
wrote the book, and yeah, I want to focus on the future. I don't want to look in the rearview mirror. I want to focus on the future. But bottom line, and I'm glad you brought that audio, Shannon. Dude can sell a book. I mean, it's one thing to write a book. Can you sell the book? And Robert Griffin III got me intrigued. He sold that quite well. That was quite good. John Williams is saying, and I don't know if this is official. I threw out the number $500,000, and again, John is one of our listeners and viewers, so this is not official. But he is telling us that the NFL settlement with Colin Kaepernick was for $10 million. In which case, oh my goodness, that's some good street walking change. You can buy a lot of cheeseburgers with 10 mil. So if that's the case, that's quite. And Anthony Del Toro even saying it was in the millions. So yeah, I didn't have that in front of me. So it is, the NFL is willing to pay, but the cost of their payment might be your silence. Robert Griffin III. Coming up, Shannon's salty shakedown, always enlightening. And on a December 1st, I think it'll put you in the Christmas spirit. I think it'll make you feel all joyous. You may want to start singing Christmas carols after this morning's salty shakedown, or not. We'll find out. Coming up also this day in sports history, sports birthdays, and more. Don't forget, just after the top of the hour, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. Spurs are on a roll, baby. They've won 2 in a row. They'll be in Portland tomorrow night. They can win 3 in a row. Then we can start talking winning streak. Spurs are back. At least in my mind, they are. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, at least until tomorrow night at Portland. We'll talk Spurs and NBA. We got to get into LeBron James. LeBron James won't be playing for several games. There's a reason for that we will get into as well. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney, Dave Oehler, your Soundscape stylist. Thanks for hanging out with us till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Hey, Dave, I got to record some spots here. I know you don't have me up anyway, but I'm just letting you know. Thank you, Marcus. Okay, I got to do some recording here. Let's lower that. And so I'm going to mute myself so you don't have to deal with this. So I will be off mute in a moment. All right. I am back with audio. James Rippey, I was doing a commercial and I didn't want you guys to have to sit through 3 consecutive attempts at commercials. Let me save that now. 1, 2, 3. Here we come.
Let's get back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Find Chris and Salty on Twitter at Chris Duel and at Shannon B. Sweeney.
Little Rolling Stones for you. They were in Austin just a couple of weeks ago. Shannon, I think it was at Circuit of the Americas, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Mick Jagger was hanging out at the Broken Spoke and a couple other places around town. He posted on his Instagram.
Woo.
How cool would that be to just be hanging out and there's
Yeah.
Mick Jagger?
And I forget where it
hanging out with
was.
a beer.
Earlier in this tour, it was somewhere on the East Coast. It might have been North Carolina or South Carolina. The Stones were in town, and it was like the night before the concert. And Mick like had blue jeans and a t-shirt on and put on a baseball cap, and he just went to a club to have beer and hang out. And there's a photo of him just hanging out like at an outdoor patio, drinking a beer at a table. And there's people all around him, and they have no idea that's Mick Jagger. And it's just like Mick hanging out at a bar. That's very cool.
He's kind of like pretty unassuming, right? Like if he's
That's what
not
I hear.
in the typical garb. And like, I mean, that was like my experience with Serena, right? I mean, it took me a while to be like, oh, that is Serena Williams sitting across from me. But again, in Austin, no one cares, and they don't care about her. Just no one wants to be bothered or bother anybody else. We just live and let be.
Good for them. That's the way
I
you
like
should
the vibe.
be.
It's the vibe here. I love it.
And I've heard over Mick is so flamboyant on stage, and he's such a madman and a ball of energy on stage. But I've heard that people like at parties, like Hollywood parties or wherever you might run into Mick Jagger, that he's soft spoken and as you mentioned, unassuming and kind of quiet. It's amazing his real persona away from the stage versus that wild persona he has on stage. It's kind of fascinating, but my goodness, what a force of nature he is, and continues to be. That I was watching that Beatles documentary, Get Back, over the weekend. That was 53 years ago. Next month, it was January of 1969, and those were contemporaries of Mick Jagger. And I was, not most of the people, but a lot of the people in that studio are no longer living. Paul McCartney, George Harrison, Linda McCartney is no longer around, and for Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones, and I know we lost Charlie Watts this year, their drummer, which is very, very sad. But for Mick and Keith Richards and Ron Wood to keep making music and filling arenas and just selling out and doing a big concert of the Americas event like they did in Austin, they're amazing. So my hat off to them. And as an old guy, Shannon, and you'll know this someday, 30 years, 40 years from now, when people older than you are still doing big things and you're old, it gives you hope. So the Rolling Stones give me hope. There's still life left somewhere.
Mick is 79 years old.
That's crazy.
And he's in better shape than I am.
Goodness.
Yeah.
I can't get my fat ass up on stage, and he's out there 79 years old, still running around.
Well, you talk about he's in shape, Dave. I heard like in the 80s and 90s to get ready for a concert, I heard that Mick would go out and run 10 miles while singing the songs that are on the set list. So he would just go out as a runner. I mean, you talk about in shape, A, running 10 miles, but B, you're running and you're singing the songs that you're going to sing on stage.
I've never run 10 miles in a week, much less a day.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And one more
Keep
note.
rolling, Stones. Keep rolling.
Yes. Before we go into the Salty Shakedown, Gordon Weedman, who's a rocker himself and a big music expert, says that the Rolling Stones in their shows on this tour and in Austin started the show with a filmed montage of their drummer, Charlie Watts, who has passed away. So that's cool. I would have loved to have seen that show. He also says that Mick looked fantastic in concert just a couple of weeks ago in Austin. Great to hear. Coming up, Shannon's Salty Shakedown for the first day of December. But first, how about some sports birthdays and this day in sports history? December 1st, 1954, the New York Yankees and the Baltimore Orioles complete the largest trade in Major League Baseball history. They exchanged 17 players, including Don Larson, Gene Woodling, Bob Turley. It was the biggest trade ever. 17 players exchanged between those two. This day in 1956, led by future Basketball Hall of Famers Bill Russell and Casey Jones, Team USA won its fourth consecutive Olympic gold medal with an 89-55 victory over the Soviet Union in the Melbourne Games. On this day in 1964, after just 3 seasons in Major League Baseball, the Houston Colt 45s changed their name to the Houston Astros. The owners say the move signals a step into the future for the franchise and the city of Houston. On this day in 1984, the 50th Heisman Trophy goes to quarterback Doug Flutie of Boston College. On this day in 1990, the 56th Heisman Trophy award goes to Brigham Young quarterback Ty Detmer. Ty Detmer, who's from around these parts. And finally, on this day in 1997, Golden State Warriors guard Latrell Sprewell assaults head coach PJ Carlissimo and chokes him. His hands on his neck, choking your head coach. For that, Latrell Sprewell suspended for 10 games. Not kicked out for the season, not banned for 10. Oh, sit out 10 games, Latrell. We'll see you later, brother. Wow. Shocker for me. And PJ Carlissimo, who then became a Spurs assistant, is such a good guy. I don't know what he did to make Latrell Sprewell go off like that, but it happened on this day in 1997. That's your sports history, and I got 3 sports birthdays. Yesterday we talked about the passing of Lee Elder, who was a pioneer in golf, obviously. Born on this day in 1939, Lee Trevino, or Trevino to be more specific, pronounce it a little better. Lee Trevino, who called himself Supermex, which I loved. He had a golf hat that had a sombrero on it, had a sombrero logo. It was very, very cool. Lee Trevino won the British Open in 71 and 72. He won the U.S. Open in 68 and 71. He won the PGA in 74 and 84. Lee Trevino, born in Dallas, Texas. Born on this day in 1986, Deshaun Jackson, NFL wide receiver who just won't go away, still playing, won the Pro Bowl, went to the Pro Bowl in 2009 and 2010 and 2013, born in Los Angeles, California. Finally, born on this day in 1992, Major League Baseball All-Star and infielder Javier Baez, born in Bayamon, Puerto Rico. So happy birthday, Javier Baez, Deshaun Jackson, and Lee Trevino. Those are your sports birthdays. That's your sports history. And now to get us in the Christmas spirit on this first day of December, it will be a joyous Noel to you and yours. Here it is, your December 1st Salty Shakedown.
It's the season of giving, Chris, and I'm here to give the people what they want, with salts and all. And we're going to go football heavy today. Chris, yesterday during our show, LSU officially announced Coach Brian Kelly as the newest head coach of the LSU Tiger football program. Not a shocker, as we all knew it was taking place. And unfortunately, It was the Notre Dame football team who also found out with the rest of the world that it was happening. They were not alerted ahead of time, and now we have what appears to be the text message that Brian Kelly sent to his players at 10:08 p.m. on Sunday night. So I want to read it for you here. And just pretend, be in that college mode. Be that 18 to 22-year-old man who, by the way, number 6 right now on the college football playoff. Oh, yeah, get your phone out, pretend you're on your phone. Reading text. Okay, men, let me first apologize for the late night text, and more importantly, for not being able to share the news with you in person that I will be leaving Notre Dame. I am flying back to South Bend tonight to be able to meet with you in the morning, but the news broke late today, and I'm sorry you found out through social media or news reports. I will have more to share when we meet tomorrow at 7 a.m., but for now, just know that my love for you is limitless, and I am so proud of all that we have accomplished. Our program is elite because of your hard work and commitment. I know that will continue. I will share more in the morning when we meet again. Again, my sincere apologies for not being able to be the one to share the news directly with you, Coach Kelly. All right, Chris, again, that was sent at 10:08 p.m. Hey, guys, the rumors are true. I'm leaving. See you at 7. By the way, that meeting, 7 o'clock, he apparently spoke for 3 minutes and 40 seconds with his players and then was on a plane back to Louisiana at 7:11, getting out of Dodge. This was handled also poorly. There's no way that he didn't have time to tell his players. And in the world we live in, where everything eventually gets leaked, how did he not know? How did he not send that text? How did he not have that text or a message immediately ready? How was that not, as you're signing the papers to become a new head coach of another program, when your program is ranked number 6 in the college football playoff and you may have a chance to get in there, you're going to go to a New Year's Six bowl game. Everything is looking great for Notre Dame. You even mentioned how great the program is and how much and how elite and the commitment and how that's just going to continue to grow and how great it is. And you're going to leave that all behind, including those players. How do you not, while you're signing those papers, think about what you're going to say to them? How do you wait until 10 o'clock the night before you say, oh, by the way, 7 a.m. meeting, we will say our final goodbyes? Chris, you're a player who receives this text that night. You already know the news, but now it's become more real. What's your reaction? Are you mad?
I would be aghast. And I mean, you made promises to these players. You made promises to their parents when you recruited them. How hard would it have been for Brian Kelly to say to LSU, hey, man, before we do anything, I need to personally meet with my players. You need to either man up, or if you're a woman, whoa, man up and do the right thing. And the right thing is a face-to-face explanation to your team. They shouldn't get that's like breaking up a relationship with a text. And most of those, a lot of those players have been involved with Brian Kelly for 4 or more years. That's crap. He was wrong. And that, to me, Shannon, that's very revealing of his character. When he's ready to move on, he's ready to dispose of you and discard you, with a text, and as you mentioned, in 3 minutes and 40 seconds before he gets on a plane and leaves.
We posed the question earlier in the show today of what might happen with Luke Fickell. He's rumored to be one of the names for the Notre Dame open position now. But his team currently ranked number 4 in the college football playoff. What would happen if he got that opportunity prior to a playoff, prior to a bowl game, with both teams being ranked so high? LSU not in the top 25. LSU bowl eligible, but LSU not going to a big-time bowl versus Notre Dame, whether they're in the college football playoff or not, they're going to a big-time bowl. They're going to be on prime time. Why would you not at least stick through that? That, to me, as a player, would probably hurt the most. But there it is. That was Brian Kelly's text that he sent to his team just hours before they were to meet in person to say their final goodbyes. All right, story number 2 today, Chris. This one I found pretty interesting. Apparently, Mac Jones was part of a crime, sir, when the Patriots were in Atlanta at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome playing the Falcons on November 18th. After the game, Mac Jones' wrist playbook was stolen out of the locker room. Now, this isn't the first time this has occurred, right? We had the Tom Brady jersey incident years back. Apparently, this is becoming more and more of a thing. According to the Twitter reports about this, there is someone, an assistant who works at the away team locker rooms within this stadium, who is responsible for taking these items. He also took some socks from the third-string quarterback, and apparently has plans to take more items. I believe Tampa Bay will be visiting soon, and there's plans to possibly steal something from either Gronk or Brady or any of the other big names from that roster. My question to you is, Chris, you have this opportunity to steal something and to either sell it or keep it as your own. Are you really going with the playbook? Because I get it from maybe an opponent standpoint, but
Yeah.
the Patriots went on to beat down the Falcons on November 18th. And then just last week, they went on to beat the Titans. So I don't know that stealing that really hurt them as far as their season. And I don't know that holds much value on the open market, even though apparently the guy selling it wanted $100,000 for said wrist playbook of one Mac Jones. So you are the assistant. You're a bad guy. You're in the locker room, the away team. What are you taking and why?
First of all, I hope I wouldn't steal anything. But since you're bringing up the hypothetical, and if you're a bad guy and they are the opponent, maybe you do. I mean, the wrist playbook of the quarterback. You think of what is the most damaging thing you can steal. I think that's up there. And I also, I mean, you talk about memorabilia. If Mac Jones turns out to be a really good quarterback, and as a rookie, this is sure looking like he might be. You think about what a rookie baseball or a rookie football or baseball card can get you. A Michael Jordan rookie card is worth a ton of money. Maybe the rookie wristband with all the plays that Mac Jones was wearing his rookie year 10 years from now might be worth a ton of money. So maybe he's crazy like a fox. Maybe he's onto something here, but I think it's a pretty crappy move to steal that.
Yeah, pretty crappy, and I'm hoping that Mercedes-Benz Dome does find whatever employee has been taking these things and then selling them for his own benefit. I personally, I think I'd go cleats, because guys have been getting more creative in custom cleats. I think it'd be easier to then prove that they were actually game worn, that they were used by said player versus a jersey. You could go buy one, you could mock it up, you could do this, that, the other. I think the cleats would go a long way. And, depending on what you're selling them for, maybe, you sell the left one and the right one and make a little bit more than selling just them together. I don't know, but that would be my go-to. All right, finally today in the NFL world, this has become kind of a strange topic. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Steelers wide receiver Chase Claypool, but he is pretty popular on TikTok. He does all of the trends, and apparently he is a lover of music. The Pittsburgh Steelers currently 5-1, not having their ideal season. It looks like it may even be the end of the road for the Ben Roethlisberger era. But Chase Claypool, a big part of that team, was asked recently how the team could improve at practice and then obviously have that translate over to games. And his response was that he needs music. He wants music to be played at practice. He said they play music during pregame warmups. We're loose. We're having fun. They should play music at practice. Immediately, teammate defensive end Cam Hayward said he hoped that Claypool was joking when he said that, because what the team really needs is X's and O's and execution and not music. Chris, obviously, my high school girls basketball varsity experience compares almost exactly to professional NFL football. And we did not have music in practice. We had music during shoot around prior to a game that day, like earlier in the day. And then during warm-ups, we had a specific playlist. But during regular good old-fashioned practice, no music. And I'm going to say that in the NFL, they should maybe keep that the same. Your opinion, because I do know, some people, it's like with coaches, right? Some people just react better to being yelled at, and some people need constructive criticism, and some people do need to be coddled, and that's how you're going to get their best performance out of them. So maybe for Chase and Chase only, the music would really assist him, but I got to go with Cam Hayward on the X's and O's and execution.
What strikes me as you bring this up, I remember when I used to run a lot. I mean, when you would put in earphones when you're running distance, I'm able to run better when I have good music. So I see the argument for it. But as you point out, and I think as someone thinking about the team getting better, X's and O's and working on actual, game specific plays would make more sense. Plus, whatever Claypool wants to listen to. What if there's other players from the SEC who like country music? And what if Claypool likes rap? I mean, you've got such a diversity in the locker room. You probably couldn't settle on a music that everybody likes. So I would say no to music at this point.
All right, Chase Claypool, there's your answer. If you didn't get it from your teammate in Cam Hayward, you got it from Chris and Salty here today. There it is, the Salty Shakedown.
Outstanding salty shakedown. The guy stealing stuff in the locker room. Aren't there security cameras? I mean, don't. How difficult, especially in an NFL locker room? How do you not have security cameras? I would think you'd get busted that way.
I mean, it's Mercedes-Benz Superdome.
Come on.
You'd think that they've got plenty of money to.
Unless the Falcons, unless you want to, unless you're empowering him to steal. All right. Coming up, a man who would never steal contraband, the great Bill Schoening, voice of the San Antonio Spurs. Spurs on a roll. They've won 2 in a row for the first time this season. Can they make it 3 in a row tomorrow night at Portland? We'll talk Spurs. We'll talk NBA. We'll even talk NFL and college football with Bill Schoening. So many topics to cover with him and so many topics coming at you in the 8 o'clock hour. Thanks for hanging out with us till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Woo! All right, now I need to edit the spots I just created. Let me see. Edit, select entire wave. All right. Let's see here. I am editing audio, which is, I'm sure, is just riveting video. Let's see. I need that. There it is. That needs to be 30. It's 33 seconds. That's too long. Let's see here.
Cowboys cornerback Deshaun Wright out for COVID.
Another one, a new one.
Yeah, that's just on the OEI's website.
Okay, thank you. Dave telling me another Cowboy player, cornerback, Deshaun Wright, out with COVID for tomorrow night's game. Thank you, Amari Cooper. All right, let me see who this is.
And Crosby said that Amari Cooper's back in the facility, but he's not feeling very well. If he doesn't practice today, he won't play on Thursday.
Okay, thank you.
Terrence Steele is the other player that will be out with to play on Thursday.
Yeah, starting offensive tackle.
Dental stories on the OEI website.
Okay, thanks. Dave is calling Bill Schoening. Whoa, that's the wrong thing. Let's do this.
Bill's ready.
Thank you. Jerome Sosa, good morning. I need NBA. Pulling up the Spurs information for Bill's segment. Gordon says there was an NFL connection at the Rolling Stones concert in Austin. Billionaire Thomas Tull has a band called Ghost Hounds who opened for the Rolling Stones. He is the band founder and rhythm guitarist. He also happens to be part owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Interesting. Gordon, thank you for that. Here we come.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is the first day of December, which absolutely blows my mind, but it is that time of year when so much is going on in the world of sports. Cowboys play tomorrow night at the New Orleans Saints. Friday, UTSA in the Conference USA Championship game against Western Kentucky. Friday and Saturday, so many conference championship games in college football, as the final college football playoff ranking will be released on Sunday. And of course, we'll begin to learn where a lot of teams are headed for their college football bowl games. And also, it is that time of year when the NBA starts to really heat up in the month of December, and it heated up in a big way last night as the Phoenix Suns won their 17th in a row. They beat the Golden State Warriors 104-96. Speaking of winning games in a row, San Antonio Spurs have won 2 in a row. That's the first time they've done that this season. They beat the Washington Wizards on Monday night 116-99. They will go for 3 in a row tomorrow night at the Moda Center in Portland. And of course, the man who will have that call on the radio, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, our good friend Bill Schoening. Bill, how are you doing on this Wednesday?
Very good. Beautiful day today, Chris. Good to be with you.
Can you believe it's December 1st? Am I the only one who's wondering where the heck 2021 went to?
No, and I'm usually very late in getting Christmas decorations up, but for some reason, last week it was an off weekend, so I got it done, got it out of the way. And I really think that, like, for the first ones on our block with, like, the Christmas lights on, I feel kind of weird. So I'm usually the last one instead of the first one, but it's just kind of the way it fell. So, yeah, it is December, but, it's just, this whole year is just going very, very quickly.
So we now know, Bill, because Shannon told us earlier she's got her Christmas tree up. You've got your Christmas decoration. You two are – I'm last minute like you. I go, uh-oh, it's like December 20th. I better do this. So congratulations. Let's talk a little Spurs, Bill. It happened again on Monday night. It feels so much better when this young Spurs team can close the game. They've been in so many games this year, and we've talked about it, that this young team will eventually find a way to close these games, and they've done that lately. Last Friday night against the Boston Celtics, and on Monday night against the Washington Wizards, 2 very good Eastern Conference teams. What have you noticed about this Spurs team, Bill, the last couple of games, especially down the stretch, that has enabled them to put together these wins against 2 pretty good teams?
Well, they've been able to get some stops. That's one of the things that John Murray talked about after the game the other night against the Wizards. And they've been able to fuel some points off of their defense and get it going. They scored 39 points in the third quarter against the Wizards the other day and shot 64% from the field in the second half. They basically, taken over that game. They flipped the game in the third quarter. They were down by 10 going in. Or down by 6, then went up by 6, and then they just kind of, rode Derek White in the third quarter, obviously, because he had such a great third quarter, the best quarter he's had in his career, 18, and everybody's hoping that'll get him going, because he's been in a bit of a shooting slump, but he's playing with confidence, and, Bob said now Derek White is back, hopefully, and we'll see what we saw before. The injuries kind of slowed him down. But, the 15-0 run to close out the Boston game, the big second half against the Wizards, I think those are both encouraging things. And as you pointed out in the post-game show the other night after we visited with Becky Hammond, Becky's thought was, hey, we can play with anybody as long as we're hitting our shots. Now, that sounds like an oversimplification, but it's true because I think the Spurs can hang in just about all the other statistical categories. We've talked about this all year long, Chris, about how they're in the top 5 in assists. They're now in the top 10 in shooting percentage overall. They have been hitting their threes a little bit more lately, more consistently. Keldon Johnson especially has really found his range lately from three-point territory, which is very good. So all these encouraging things point in the right direction, I think, for the Spurs.
Bill, going back to Monday night, Joshua Primo, in 12 minutes, he had 2 rebounds, 1 assist, and 6 points, both coming from 3. He was 2 from 2 from 3. Talk about him, and now that he's back with the Spurs, what his impact might be going forward.
I don't know how long he's going to be actually with the parent club, to be honest with you, because I think he's been reassigned back to Austin. They really want him to get minutes. They want him to get playing time. And the best way for him to do that right now at the age of 18 in the current situation is for him to play for the Austin Spurs, at least for now. And I think that, what we saw basically the other night was a cameo appearance from a very young player who's got a lot of promise. Defensively, he was up against Bradley Beal. He got an education in that situation as Beal was able to get a couple of buckets against him. But he plays with such confidence and fearlessness for a guy so young. I think he turns 24 later this month. He doesn't turn 24 later this month. On the 24th, he turns 19. It's hard to believe that he's only 18 years of age, but he's one of the youngest players, obviously, in the NBA. And but he just needs time to groom his game a little bit. But we see the flashes of what the potential is for Josh Primo for sure.
Well, and it's interesting regarding Josh Primo and some of the other younger players, Bill. You had a great conversation in pregame with Brent Barry, the Spurs vice president of basketball operations, and he mentioned to you that while the Spurs probably use their G League team, the Austin Spurs, better, I think, than anybody else in the NBA, and they've really developed players so well through the Austin Spurs. But he said with these young players, maybe more than they used to, they might be getting more opportunities with the Spurs, with the parent club. It used to seem like with Coach Greg Popovich, if you were a rookie, you were going to be in Austin pretty much most of the season. But we've already seen, as Shannon mentions, Josh Primo, getting opportunities in the month of November. So, I mean, do you think maybe because they're so young that these guys might be getting more of an opportunity than they might have certainly back in the day when you had a Tim, Tony, and a Manu on that roster?
I think that was Brent's point during the interview, is that this is not a 61 team like it used to be. So there will be more opportunities for young guys to step in. But at the same time, on these off nights when the Spurs aren't playing, or maybe on this 3-game road trip where they probably weren't going to have Primo in the rotation, it's better for him to get the minutes with the Austin Spurs and get that experience under his belt, because that's still a pretty good level of basketball, obviously. And you got a lot of guys that are pros. It's good basketball. So he's getting good experience at that level as he develops his game. I think at the same time, when those occasions occur, like a homestand, and you can bring them up, that's a good thing about the fact that Austin is so close geographically to San Antonio, and they did that for a reason, obviously, so they can get these guys back and forth if they need to. But you look at the guys in the starting lineup, 3/5 of the starting lineup spent significant time with the Austin Spurs. Keldon Johnson, Derek White, and DeJounte Murray. Obviously, some guys on the bench, Bryn Forbes, Trey Jones would have probably played more in the G League last year had the whole situation been different. Obviously, the G League lost most of their season. Lonnie Walker spent some time. Drew Eubanks. So these guys have developed their games in the G League, and the Spurs have continued to use the G League as an important part of their player development.
Bill, the road trip will start with the Trailblazers tomorrow night. They are sitting at 500 with 11-11, but they're 10-1 when playing at home. So what's it going to take for the Spurs team to continue this win streak come tomorrow night?
Portland has always been a tough place to play, even when the teams weren't all that good. The Moda Center and before that the Rose Garden, same building, always a tough place to play. Those fans are very passionate about their basketball, so it's no big surprise that Portland has a big home court. I think continuing to do the things they're doing right now, creating some offense with their defense. They're obviously scoring a lot of points in the paint. They're in the top 5 in the NBA in that department. And getting out of the break, fast break points, they're obviously in the top 5 in that department as well. They want to play with pace. And then, of course, you got certain guys off the bench that need to come in now. Of course, Devin Vassell has been out, and he's missed a couple of games now with a contusion. Hopefully, he'll be able to come back during this road trip, and same thing with Doug McDermott. But the Spurs bench, we see Trey Jones playing a little bit more now and creating some kind of a niche for himself now as the backup point guard. And he was even in crunch time the other night to play some good defense because he's a very good defender on the ball. So I can see situations where Trey Jones is going to see an uptick in his minutes. And then we saw Thaddeus Young come in the other night and go 5 for 7 with the field, really help out in that victory over the Wizards.
He's the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. And Bill, earlier you brought up DeJounte Murray as one of the guys who has spent significant time when he started off with the Spurs in Austin with the Austin Spurs. Last 2 games especially, Bill, DeJounte certainly in that Boston Celtics game, late in the game, really asserted himself. Seemed like he just, willed the Spurs to victory. He would not be denied. And just while I was listening to your call of that game, I had the television monitor up and I was just watching his body language and watching the look on his face after a big basket. And one point he looked over to the Boston bench and said, "You guys can leave now," essentially gesturing them to head off to the locker room when he put that game away for them. And then against Washington, even though Derek White, as you mentioned, had the huge third quarter with 18 points, and Derek White led the Spurs in scoring with 24 points on Monday night. You look at what DeJounte Murray did once again, nearly a triple-double, 22 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists. I mean, we've known DeJounte Murray is a force and is certainly one of the leaders, if not now the leader of this Spurs team. But it almost seems like he's taken his game to even another level recently. Have you noticed anything like that?
Absolutely. The way he is sharing the ball, this is a career high for him in all those departments: points, rebounds, and assists. And he is the leader of this team. And one of those assists he had was to Derek White, and that got Derek White going the other night. Remember, Derek, as we mentioned, had been struggling with the shot a little bit, and Murray wanted to get him going, and even mentioned that in postgame. So he's got the entire team in mind, not just him going to drive inside and get a basket. You know what? Derek's open in transition. Let me try to hit him and see if we can get him going a little bit, because he's going to get a good look at the basket with his three-pointer from the wing. So he's become a complete player. There's no question about that. And what he does at the defensive end on the boards, to have a point guard that is about 180 pounds go in there among the bigs and consistently get 8 to 10 rebounds a game, that's pretty remarkable for a guard.
You mentioned Devin Vassell, Bill, and obviously he's got an injury that he's dealing with. But this week, JJ Redick said that he is one of my young favorite players to watch. What about him and his style of play has a guy like JJ, who obviously played the game very well, incredible shooter, has him so hype about Devin Vassell?
Devin Vassell's a very good defender. He's very wiry, and he kind of knows how to get to spots. So I think he's got this very good basketball IQ. He's obviously a guy that is very bright, very sharp, very coachable. You hear the interviews with him, and he's a very respectful guy, and it just seems like a really good, complete young guy. And then he's in his second year. So a lot of times you see guys make that progress in their second year where they find their confidence, the game slows down for them a little bit. I think all of those things have happened for Devin Vassell. And also, he has found his touch from the outside. He's shooting, I think, 39% from three-point range or close to it. And I don't have the stats right in front of me, but he's been shooting the ball with a lot of consistency and with a lot of confidence. And also what he does at the defensive end. I think he's a very smooth player for being so young. And I think like a lot of these young players that the Spurs have on the roster, he's got an extremely bright future. He played for a very good college coach in Leonard Hamilton, who stresses defense. So I think it's a very bright future for Devin Vassell.
Voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening, talking hoops with us. And Bill, looking at the rest of the NBA, a big one last night in Phoenix. Teams with the best record in the NBA, the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors. Phoenix comes away with their 17th win in a row. They beat the Warriors 104-96. So they get the head-to-head win, and now they have the identical record with the Warriors at 18-3. You and the Spurs got an opportunity to see the Phoenix Suns just a few games ago. What is it about this Phoenix Suns team, do you think, that has enabled them to get off to this great start?
They've got a little bit of everything. I think they're well coached too by Monty Williams. I can go on and on about Monty Williams and how much respect that we have for him. But they've got all the different pieces. They got the veteran point guard that knows how to get everybody involved. He's very feisty, Chris Paul. They've got the young big who I think is really playing well right now. DeAndre Ayton played extremely well last night. I like their small forward, Mikal Bridges, who played again, a great college career at Villanova, played for a great college coach, so he is fundamentally sound. They've got some good bench players. So I think that this Phoenix team is a very, very solid ball club. Not taking anything from Golden State, but this is so early in the year, Chris. I know there's a lot of hype about this matchup. Here it is. That game was on November 30th, right? So a long way to go for both those ball clubs. Obviously, if they stay healthy, both of them, Golden State, if they get Klay Thompson back, obviously that's another big weapon for them. So, there's a lot of basketball left, but I think that those two teams would not surprise me to see them right there at the top of the Western Conference at the end.
Yeah, that game was a huge matchup last night. And I'm sure the Spurs were taking notes because after they play Portland tomorrow, next in line is Golden State, followed by the Phoenix Suns. Of those two teams, which do you think poses the better matchup for the Spurs as they do try to string some wins together here?
Well, as they try to get strings to wins to string together, if we can say that correctly, you can tell that I'm never on the air early in the morning. I'm a late night kind of guy. But I think the most important thing right now is to not worry about Golden State or Phoenix and worry about the Portland Trailblazers, because you mentioned their good winning streak at home and the fact that they've had such a good home record. So, one at a time, all these matchups are going to be tough because you're going to have to execute very, very well to beat any of these teams, especially, Golden State and Phoenix. But I'm looking forward to the Portland game because I think that the Spurs can, now they get a little momentum going, so it would be great to keep that going on the road. It's a young team, as we mentioned, but they might get a couple of their pieces back. We'll see how everybody is health-wise. But you can see the confidence growing in this team. It's still very, very early in the season. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this road trip brings.
Bill, another big story overnight in the NBA. We learned that LeBron James of the Lakers has entered the league's health and safety protocols. Adrian Wojnarowski saying that James is expected to miss several games for the Lakers. Of course, the Spurs went through health and safety protocols with Jakob Poeltl recently. There were times last season, certainly in 2020. I mean, this is one of the new unknowns in the NBA. I mean, injuries have always been an issue in the NBA, but you never know now with COVID-19 if you might run into not only, a COVID diagnosis itself, but maybe through contact tracing, players or staff members could, be in close proximity to someone and have to therefore, go into health and safety protocols. I guess it's a sign of the times, but just another unknown, Bill, where for any team, whether it's the Lakers, the Spurs, or anybody, things can change very, very quickly because of this.
Hey, you put vaccination, right? And obviously these guys are around a lot of people try to take as many precautions as possible. They test a lot, but you're traveling, you're all over the place, right? So as careful as you try to be, it's just one of those situations where there are these breakthrough cases, and it's unfortunate because, as you mentioned, it kind of breaks up the team's rhythm. We saw it happen last year as well with several guys. Were out with the health and safety protocol. This year, Jock Landale's a backup, and of course he wasn't playing very much, but it really kind of took the Spurs out of the rhythm when Jakob Poeltl was out for 7 games.
Bill Schoening will have the call tomorrow night as the Spurs try for 3 in a row at the Moda Center in Portland. Of course, Bill calling that game remotely from the AT&T Center. That is a 9 o'clock start in Portland, but that means pregame Spurs radio game night with Bill will be 8:30 on 1200 WOAI out of San Antonio and across the Spurs radio network. Bill Schoening, as always, we love talking with you. Thanks for getting up early with us, and we'll see you on the radio tomorrow night.
Okay, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. The voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. And Shannon, you brought it up. Hopefully the Spurs get this win against Portland, because the next two on the schedule are Golden State and Phoenix, 18-3, each of them as they played last night. Those are going to be tough. I love the spunk of this young Spurs team. I think they could knock off either Golden State or Phoenix on a night when they're hitting their shots. But let's just get the Portland win and feel better about ourselves at 3 in a row.
Well, in Portland, no cupcake at home. Don't let that 500
No.
record fool you. 10-1
Gosh.
win at their own house.
Yeah, and you look at their record, that means they're 1-10 on the road. So
yeah,
absolutely.
We'll look forward to them coming to San Antonio.
Yes, but maybe the Spurs break through tomorrow night. We'll have Bill's call tomorrow night. Spurs at Portland. Coming up, Tiger Woods speaks out, talks about his future in the world of golf. Urban Meyer talks about his future, what he might or might not be interested in as far as coaching goes down the line. We will get into both of those stories and more. NFL, college football, we're all over it. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Oehler is back as Soundscape stylist. We thank you for hanging out with us till 9 o'clock this morning on the Chris Duel Show. Woo! Let's see. All right. See, I have to edit one more spot here. All right, let me take a look at this. All right. Jerome Sosa, good morning. Likes Bill Schoening's call of the Spurs games. He is outstanding. This is an earlier comment, but I just saw it from Fred, who was listening while driving to work, and we were talking about the RG3 book. Fred says he wouldn't be surprised if ESPN lets him go for all the dirt on the Washington football team. That would be interesting. Yeah, I mean, at that level, when you're messing with billionaires, in that case, Daniel Snyder, and again, you just don't know if the other owners close ranks to protect Daniel Snyder as they have been, because they don't want that ever befalling them. It is very interesting. Fred likes Jason's breakfast morning show idea. Now, I saw that, but I was in the middle of a segment. I got to go back and find his breakfast morning show idea. I'm scrolling back and I don't see it right now, Fred. Yeah, that's okay. I see that now. A morning show breakfast after the first weekend of January. I've known other, and I've done that before, where you just have like a get-together breakfast somewhere. It's a good idea. What's difficult is that Shannon is in Austin, but it might, she was down here recently. Maybe we'll get her back down in San Antonio and do something like that. I like the idea. Welcome back. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. Our thanks to Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, who joined us just a few moments ago. Shannon, so much going on in the world of sports. We've talked a lot about it this morning. Certainly NFL tomorrow night, huge night for the Dallas Cowboys, as they will be in New Orleans to take on the Saints. With that Washington football team just 2 games behind them now, Cowboys can't afford another loss. They've lost 3 out of 4. Hopefully they take care of business tomorrow night. On tomorrow's show, we'll talk a lot more Dallas Cowboys. We'll preview that game between the Cowboys and the New Orleans Saints. Of course, we've talked a lot of college football and the rankings, which came out overnight. the college football playoff rankings. But Shannon, Tiger Woods speaking out, he is in the news as well. And you and I and a lot of people hoping for a Tiger Woods return to golf after that horrible automobile accident he was in several months ago. He has now spoken out, talked to the media. We know a little more about the accident, and we know a lot more about what Tiger Woods' expectations are now.
Yeah, he's in the Bahamas. He hosts the Hero World Challenge each time this year, so he's out there, and he kind of had his first official presser since everything went down. Now, in regards to the crash, he said, "Listen, I don't want to talk about the crash itself. All of those details are all in the incident reports that I'm sure everyone has seen." But he was asked the big question of his return to golf, and I think to a lot of people, maybe not surprising that he said he'll never be full time again. I wouldn't have considered him full time in the last maybe 10 years. But that he does intend to get back out there and play on tour and select and pick and choose what he's going to play, so that way he can fix the schedule that works right for him. He talked about the other injuries he's come back from, saying this is definitely the hardest one, even though he's had tons and tons of injuries. Talked about how grateful he was not only to have his life but his limb. There was a possibility that he was going to lose one of his legs after that horrific crash. And I think the big one to maybe put on our calendars right now of a Tiger return to a prominent stage might be the Open. I think the Open's celebrating its 150th coming up, and he said he'd love to be a part of it. So that would be huge. I mean, I think most people would agree that if you're only going to get Tiger a select few times a year, you'd want to see him in the majors, right? You'd want to see him at the Masters. You'd want to see him return.
Yeah.
But I'm excited that he's in a better state where he can say, I'm going to play golf again, even if it is just part-time.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine whenever that first tournament back, assuming that he's able to do that and come back and play in a PGA tournament, if it is the Open or whichever one it may be, that's going to be a huge moment. That will be huge news. That will be must-see TV. That will be a ratings bonanza for whatever network has that and whatever PGA event that might be. It's certainly something to bring up with Andy Everett tomorrow. Andy's going to join us. We'll talk some UTSA football, and tomorrow will only be a day away from that UTSA Western Kentucky Conference USA Championship game when we talk to Andy Everett. But it's got to be for Tiger Woods. I mean, just imagine his entire life. We see that footage of Tiger Woods as a toddler with his dad, and Tiger Woods is swinging a putter. I mean, golf has been his life. He became the greatest golfer ever. Then this horrible traffic accident happens. Certainly, you could probably point to reckless driving and negligence on Tiger Woods' part, but nonetheless, nearly loses his life, as you mentioned, nearly loses his leg, and here he is now, certainly with a burning desire to find a way to get back and play golf. But I would imagine, my God, the probably the pain he's going through trying to get in a position to rehabilitate himself to where he can, play golf, and certainly the rehab and the training that he must go through to be in that position has got to be grueling. But again, if there's anyone who could ever do this, it's the greatest golfer of all time, and it's Tiger Woods. And it's going to be fascinating to see just what he is able to do down the line in the world of golf.
I mean, any athlete, and really probably anyone with a career that they're passionate about, wants to go out on their own terms. And I can't envision Tiger Woods never playing a professional round ever again, to let that crash be the ultimate end to what has been an incredible and inspiring career to so many. I mean, he is the reason the game is what it is today. That even if it is only one more tournament, be it a Masters or an Open or just, maybe his own Hero World Challenge a year from now, for him to be able to get healthy enough to go out, play in a tournament, and then say on his own terms, I'm going to call it a professional career. That'll be huge, both for fans of the game, PGA, and then obviously Tiger Woods, who's probably got a huge mental hurdle as well. Forget the physical. I mean, again, being that close to what could have happened, and obviously, again, maybe having golf pulled from him in a way that was out of his own hands, that has to be a hard hurdle to get over as well.
Yeah, and again, as you say, out of his own hands. Yet, evidence points to certainly reckless driving. We'll never know if there were substances involved. But again, people sometimes do stupid things behind the wheel of a car, and people make some bad choices. And certainly Tiger Woods over the years has made some bad choices. But and it's one of those things. And obviously Tiger Woods, Shannon, a superstar athlete, we tend to scorn people when they make mistakes, and someone is not who they are at their worst moment or as a result of a mistake they have made. You look at the entire life and legacy and body of work of Tiger Woods, and just what he has done personally and professionally, and what he's done for the world of golf. You and I were talking about Lee Elder yesterday, who just passed away, and he was the first African-American to play at the Masters, and he inspired Tiger Woods. And you just, from that standpoint, Shannon, think of the players, people playing golf now, and many of them will never play professionally, but just people who have taken up the game of golf, men and women of all ethnicities, because they saw a guy named Tiger Woods, and Tiger Woods made golf cool. Tiger Woods made golf, golf for the longest time was, this game played by white dudes who were not necessarily that exciting. And I'm sure, Andy or some hardcore golf guy would say, come on, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, those are exciting guys. And yeah, you can make the case for that. But man, Tiger Woods was a rock star and is a rock star and made playing golf kind of like rock and roll. And I mean, he's just responsible. I wouldn't talk golf nearly as much as you and I do if it wasn't for Tiger Woods taking the game to another level. So, I mean, he's done so much for the game and for sports and for us as fans in so many ways. And I sure hope he gets what he's burning for, and that is to come back and play the game again and make an impact on some level. It'll be so much fun to see if he can do it.
You mentioned his impact. I'm thinking now, like I haven't played a lot of golf. It's something I'd love to learn to do and get out more. I just probably need to start being outside. But I'm thinking now of like Kobe and his impact on basketball. Do people who are obviously amateurs, when they're on the putting green or on the tee box or somewhere out, either in the rough or in the fair, are they screaming Tiger the way people scream Kobe when they throw up shots? I think we should start doing that.
Yeah.
Forget Ford. Just
right.
Tiger.
Yeah. But again, just the way, the Tiger, the famous Tiger fist pump when he would hit a great shot. I'm sure there's golfers out there who they hit a great shot and they're thinking of Tiger probably when they're pumping their fist. So and Kobe's a great analogy as far as impact on the game. And again, what a talk about tragedies. It was, we almost lost Tiger. Tiger could have died. And we lost Kobe, and Kobe, as we know, we've talked about a lot, was doing so much for the game and doing so much for the women's game in supporting his daughter Gianna and those leagues that she played in, and would have lived on to do so much more. I do want to get to this before we get out of here today, and I know it was in your show notes, Shannon. Urban Meyer, there's a lot of speculation. Some people are saying Cliff Kingsbury. Do you want to go to Oklahoma? Would you go back to coaching? You and I have talked even this week about Nick Saban and how it didn't work out with the Miami Dolphins and in the NFL, but Nick Saban clearly has demonstrated, he is a college football god. Apparently, some guys are just much better at college football than they are at pro football and vice versa. So what do we know about the potential future of Urban Meyer now?
He's saying he's committed to rebuilding the franchise that is Jacksonville. I think a lot of it comes with outside noise of people suggesting that maybe he isn't the right fit for Jacksonville, and that instead of getting fired, he would take an opportunity elsewhere, again, to be able to end things on his own terms. I don't think he'd ever come back to college football. I think last year with the Texas job opening, I think that made it really clear, because as big of programs as in Oklahoma or a Notre Dame are, I think Texas of the three would still be considered the elite of the elite, especially with their move to the SEC, and that is a challenge that Urban of old would have taken, especially considering it would have been right after Tom Herman to just really rub it in, because that's the kind of guy Urban Meyer is. But he's sticking with Jacksonville. So he says, until they no longer stick with him, I guess.
Well, and on a certain, I mean, that Jacksonville team was a bad team a year ago. Yeah. It's so amazing how, and we've seen this in college and pro lately. Fans are so impatient, and Jimmy Johnson and the Cowboys were 1-15, and if they didn't pull off the Herschel Walker trade, God knows how long it would have taken. But I imagine if Cowboys fans were this folk, and they probably were back then. When Jimmy Johnson went 1-15 his first year with the Cowboys. It ain't easy, especially when the cupboard is bare and you don't have a lot of good players, even when you get the number one quarterback in the draft. And Jimmy Johnson had Troy Aikman, and he also had Steve Walsh, who was supposed to be a really good quarterback at the time. Didn't really work out that way. But I think it's the same thing in Jacksonville. If that ownership is committed to supporting him and building a team, and it wasn't that long ago that Jacksonville was in the AFC Championship game against the New England Patriots, I just think fans are getting a little too impatient with Urban Meyer, certainly in year number one.
Yeah.
And we were even wondering, will Jacksonville win any other game than one of their games against the Houston Texans? I think Jacksonville's probably ahead of schedule at this point.
Yeah, I'd say so. And given, they're not blowing anybody away, they're still going to end up with some pretty decent draft picks to add. And there's always free agency. And I think year two will be really telling for Urban Meyer. I don't think they can judge him off of year one, especially given where they were last year.
I agree. And I just still like Trevor Lawrence. I want to see him successful. I mean, it would suck if, like RG3, and we talked about his book that he's going to release, if he was just stuck with a bad franchise and a dysfunctional franchise and not able to, enjoy winning and winning on a big scale in the NFL. It's got to be tough. And you wonder, Trevor Lawrence is kind of a different breed of cat. He almost seems like a guy that if it's not working for a couple or 3 years in the NFL, I'm wondering if he might, say, I don't necessarily need this if it's not fun. We certainly saw that. Andrew Luck, I think, is the poster child for, hey, man, if you get all your millions and it's not fun anymore, you can still be a young man and walk away. So it'll be interesting to watch his career progression as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I thought you were going to say he just wouldn't remain loyal and try and go elsewhere.
Well, yeah, there's that too. You're right. Well, when you're done with that rookie contract and you've got the opportunity to go somewhere else, there's always that option as well. So one more day, Shannon, for us to fret about Cowboys and the New Orleans Saints. That will be tomorrow night, Thursday Night Football. And Dave Oehler was telling me, and I'm going to have to go run this down, that we might even have more Cowboys with COVID issues going into tomorrow night's game. That's when you start getting so many people in a locker room and in an organization that have COVID issues, you don't know how many people ran into other people. So it could get worse before it gets better.
Is this going to be one of those seasons like in the past where we've had so many injuries and they start pulling guys off the street or pulling people who have retired and become math teachers and they need them to be a backup quarterback in a playoff game? Like, why? This is such a Cowboys thing to happen. But again, I am remaining a true Cowboys fan, saying yes, we will win out from here. We will go to the playoffs and we will head to the Super Bowl and win said Super Bowl.
My goodness. Have you been drinking the eggnog already? I mean, it's December 1st. You got your tree up.
Ew, no, I hate eggnog.
Have you even with some rum in the eggnog and
it's like
some Cool Whip on
milk?
top?
I don't even like milk. So no, absolutely not.
I can do an eggnog. I like it. I can't guzzle it. I can't do like 2 eggnogs or 3. It's nice. Give me one around Christmas. I'll be all right. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, outstanding. We will be preparing for Dallas Cowboys football on this day tomorrow. Thank you very much. Yeah. You rock.
You as well, sir. Wear your Cowboys gear. Game day.
That's right. I do need to wear Cowboys gear tomorrow. That is a good reminder. Dave Oehler, will you be wearing your Cowboys gear tomorrow, Mr. Are you even with us tomorrow? We have no idea what you're doing tomorrow.
I have no idea what I'm doing tomorrow either. So I might be here, might be down the hall. I just show up and they point to whatever studio I'm supposed to be in.
You gotta love radio. It's like, we're not exactly sure what we're doing tomorrow, but we'll go where they assign us tomorrow. Very, very good. Thank you, Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. Thank you, Dave Oehler. Our thanks as well to the great Bill Schoening. He'll have the call, Cowboys. There will be a Cowboys game tomorrow, but he'll have the call Spurs versus the Portland Trailblazers tomorrow. Andy Everett on the show tomorrow. We'll talk UTSA, Conference USA Championship game. I imagine Tiger Woods' name might come up with Andy as the golf guru that he is. Have yourself a great December 1st. We'll see you mañana. Adios, amigos. Thank you, everybody. We will see you later. Adios. Go Cowboys. Go Spurs, go.